I got fired from my first job at a screen printing company outside of college. And I was pretty distraught from that. I felt like I was a failure and I'd let my parents down, and this big college degree that I just had was worthless. But, that ended up being an incredible inflection point in my life where I decided from then on, I didn't want to work for anyone else again.
Welcome to the UpFlip podcast. I'm your host, Alex Freeman, and today I'm talking to Marcus Harvey, founder of the Portland Gear clothing brand. Marcus started screen printing in his college dorm room because he wanted a way to show his Portland pride. In 2014, he started a Shopify account and turned that passion into a business, Portland Gear, now an iconic local brand with 2 retail stores and a 6-figure monthly revenue. Marcus shared how he started his clothing line in a March 2021 YouTube interview with UpFlip. Now I'm following up with Marcus to find out how Portland Gear is doing today and hear more of his insights into how to start and grow a successful clothing brand. Marcus, thanks so much for joining us.
Of course. Pleasure to be here. Glad to be back part of the UpFlip family. I love it.
Yeah, happy to have you. And so for our listeners who haven't watched the YouTube interview yet, and listeners, make sure you go check out UpFlip on YouTube and watch the interview. What's changed at Portland Gear since we last talked to you in March 2021? How's the monthly revenue and profit margins, and how do those compare to almost a year and a half ago at this point?
Yeah, what we really saw is we didn't really see a decrease in revenue at all. But what we did see is consumers just definitely changed during all of the pandemic, just became online. And, we're omni-channel. So pretty much what you can buy in either of our stores is the same that you can buy online. It's the same on our Instagram shop. And so it all pulls from the same Shopify inventory, essentially. So when consumers just decided to start ordering at home, we were pretty much already set up for it. So online's revenue, like most businesses, went up 100, 150% or so, and retail dipped down 100%, 80% or so, And so we've seen that pendulum swung way over in 2021 to really online heavy. Retail was slow. And now I've seen a really quick pendulum come swinging right back where now retail is back up and bumping and online's down from pandemic numbers. So pre-pandemic, we were 60% in store, 40 online. Then pandemic, we were about 90 online, 10 in store. And now we're probably almost back to like 50-50. And so it's just been really quick how consumerism has changed over the last 18 months in particular. But so yeah, business revenue wise stayed very similar to where we've been. We just kind of have seen the consumer sentiment change.
That's really interesting to kind of hear how the consumers have been shifting like that. Because the other thing that's been floating around the past year in particular is inflation. So how have you had to adjust your prices to deal with rising costs?
We've had to, like most people, most of our stuff is soft goods apparel, retails at 25 to 30, 35, sweatshirts can get up a little higher. And so for us, it was really just like, taking things that were $32 and making them $35, or things that were $42, making them $45. And, that extra $3 has kind of help offset the increased labor for procuring the garments and the printing and everything that we do locally. And so our prices and costs have gone up. And so we've tried to reflect that in the price of the goods, but we also don't want to price ourselves out of the market too, where with how fast inflation went up and how fast we should be adjusting prices, people don't want to pay $6 more for a shirt that they just paid $6 less for last year. So we're also kind of hedging against just the consumer feel of what they're willing to pay as well. So I don't know what ultimately that's going to do to our bottom line margin right now for the rest of the year. We stay focused on forward, and, I can't control any of this stuff. I can control what I charge for it, but I can't control if people are going to buy it or what it's going to cost me as much. And so I'm just kind of in the game right now, and I'm hoping that there's some more clarity and stuff that's found in the next 6 to 12 months or so.
How did you go about choosing, or how do you choose your vendors and suppliers? And what are some of the factors that if someone's looking at starting a clothing line that they should consider when they go to make those decisions?
Pretty much all of our apparel is printed in Portland. So we have a local, we have 3 local screen printers that help us. So in order to get to those 3, I've tried many, and I've tried lots, and I've had lots of meetings and communication with them. So it's a little bit of trial and error. It's a little bit of the sampling process. If you have a product that you make or an idea or something, honestly, just what factory is willing to work with you. If you've got some new invention and you call 100 factories and only 2 of them are willing to start with you because you have no proven sales, and those are your only 2 options, and then that's who you're going to work with. And oftentimes those companies are willing to take you because they hope you turn into $1 million client into the future, or a multi-million-dollar client. So, I stick with people that have stuck with us and that grow with us. So, there's probably 1 million hat providers out there, headwear providers, but we've got a really good one and they deliver everything we need. And so I really don't have a reason to change. And until they stop delivering, then I'll look for others or backups or something. But until that time happens, it's the person that's invested in us and wanted us to grow. And now we have a really good relationship with them. So it all starts from zero. I mean, I had zero relationships when I started all this stuff. And, Alibaba or reaching out to friends in the community or just DMing other brands and saying, hey, would you be willing to help me with XYZ? I mean, people want to help. They just need to know what you need help with.
Do you do any of your screen printing still in-house?
No, we have one digital garment printer here, DTG printer, that can do some one-off stuff or some lower size run or just like some quick turn stuff. But all of our screen printing is done at those 3 companies here in town. And, that was never a core competency of ours. And I knew that from the beginning. What we are best at is storytelling and brand and photography and marketing and stuff. We weren't the best at screen printing. And there's people who are freaking amazing at screen printing and production who are terrible at marketing and design. And I need those people to be good at printing because that's who I use. And they use me for their marketing help. So it's all about being in your lane and becoming really good in it. And I'd rather go to a really amazing screen printer than, buy all the equipment and try to do that in-house when that's just not what we're best at.
Do you have any advice that you could offer for other retail owners about, controlling some of those costs that are so often outside of your control?
Yeah, I mean, staying super lean on inventory would be a big suggestion, like trying not to dip super far into ordering thousands and thousands of things right now if that cost is inflated. That cost could come down here in the next few months, next year or so. It also could stay right there. So, and it might be better to buy now than in 12 months from now. I don't know. I don't have those answers. So I would say just staying as lean as possible, keeping as much cash on hand as possible can just help you that if you do need to buy up something because lead times have gone through the roof, then maybe you have the cash to get that extra inventory you need. And if you don't need it right now, then maybe you save that cash. And so, yeah, I just stay lean on inventory, stay heavy on cash, and then just really be in solid communication with your vendors and suppliers and try to figure out when they forecast things getting back to normal or when they think that things will be whatever. I just think that's really important too, is just having those open communications with whoever your vendors are and just asking them for guidance too, because they're in the same boat too. It's not like you or I or any of us are the only ones impacted by this. It's everyone. So getting your sales rep on the phone or a colleague or someone and just saying, hey, thinking about ordering 1,000 hats, but is this the time? Where are you guys at with capacity? Like, what's your future capacity look like? And they'll definitely help you out and inform you for sure.
Can you briefly share your background and when and why you started a clothing line?
Yeah, so I'm born in the Portland area, born and raised here. I've loved clothing and brand pretty much my whole life. The Nike World headquarters is about 5 minutes from where I spent my entire life. So I drove past that campus and just dreamed of clothes and shoes and brand. And I mean, there's nothing more iconic than Nike. So seeing inside of those walls was like Disneyland as a kid. And I loved everything that was things that you wore being emblems of the things that you believed in. So when I went to school at University of Oregon, I ended up studying, business and digital arts and got into screen printing when I started, a little skate brand when I was in college and just was beginning to learn the ropes of apparel and screen printing and stuff. And then, I got fired from my first job at a screen printing company outside of college. And I was pretty distraught from that. I felt like I was a failure and I'd let my parents down and this big college degree that I just had was worthless. But, that ended up being an incredible inflection point in my life where I decided from then on, I didn't want to work for anyone else again. And I wanted to be in control of my own thoughts and ideas and stuff. And that's ultimately why I was fired, was they viewed me as disruptive and I viewed it as creative. And so it really kind of pushed me into this thing of like, well, if other people aren't going to value myself and my ideas, I'll do it myself. So started screen printing a little more seriously and helping other brands. And then in 2014, I secured an Instagram, which is just at Portland. So I got pretty lucky and secured a great Instagram and started building a digital community on there with posting pictures of the city and events. And, that's now grown to 380,000 followers. And kind of from that page, I've spawned off Portland Gear, which is the apparel division. And we do pretty iconic logo here in town and lots of community collaborations and events and stuff. And so, yeah, Portland Gear itself is now almost 8 years old, which is pretty crazy to think about.
Wow. Yeah, that's quite a journey. Now, pop-up events were one way that you really built the Portland Gear brand. Aside from the clothing inventory, what supplies or equipment are necessary if someone wants to pull off a pop-up event?
Yeah, pop-ups are great because it's just low overhead, low lift. It's a 10 by 10 tent. It's a 6-foot table, a tablecloth, a cool backdrop, maybe a way to display your product and try to get that all into an employee or your own car and load it out yourself. And, it's as minimal as one person working it or a couple people, depending on where you got to be or how long the day is. But, generally you can get a booth fee somewhere for anywhere from free to $500, depending on how many people will be there. And you pop up your stuff and sell it for however long people are there. And then you leave. And it's a store on wheels, and you go to where your consumers and your people are, and then you go. You're not signing into long-term leases or anything like that. And we do a ton of those. I mean, we've had a weekend where we've done 6 pop-ups in one weekend in addition to our open retail stores, because we just get out in the community. It's a great way to get your name out. It's marketing, it's publicity, it's sales, it's community, it's engagement, it's literally everything. And people love discovering brands and seeing brands at pop-ups and stuff.
And a note for our listeners, if you want to see the Portland Gear pop-up van, check out the video with Marcus on the UpFlip YouTube channel, where he also shares a ton of other helpful tips for starting a clothing line. On that brand building question, what tips do you have for someone who is starting from scratch to build that brand awareness?
You've got to have a niche. The riches are in the niches, or there's a million sayings. It's better deep than wide, or also narrow than, it's like, mine is Portland. So we sell the pride of Portland. We sell Portland on a shirt for people that like Portland. If you don't like Portland, if you don't want to wear Portland on a shirt, then you probably don't shop at Portland Gear. And it's a waste of my time to be convincing you otherwise. We would rather focus on the people that are inside of our niche and inside of our community and make the best product for those people. And we welcome everyone to be part of that if they so choose, or we hope through marketing or creativity that we allow, people to join in with us. But you've got to have a niche. You've got to have something that is repeatable, or something that people can clasp onto. Just starting a t-shirt brand to start a t-shirt brand, it's probably not going to work, unfortunately. You got to find what already has momentum. Like, where's the river already going, and how do you just put your boat into that river? So for us, it was Portland. Portland already has millions of people and tourists and locals and pride and all this stuff. So we just put a cool emblem and some authenticity in that channel and that river, and it started working. And it's got to be authentic to you and your story too. Like my skate surf brand in high school, college, I never skated or surfed. I just thought those were cool things. And there's a reason that brand didn't work, because I wasn't authentic in the space, and I wasn't an expert, and I couldn't really speak to it well. And so you've got to have a niche. You got to know at least the lane that you're in and allow people to go. You either have to go after the people that are already in that lane, or you got to go at least let people be aware of the lane that you're in, and then let them decide if they want to support you or not. But I see it too often with entrepreneurs or people that just kind of throw this shotgun approach, or really don't have a why or a reason for what they're doing. And then they wonder why it's not successful. It's like, you got to have something that has momentum behind it.
And then your Instagram following obviously helped you grow Portland Gear. So what tips do you have for a new clothing line to grow their social media following? What strategies worked, and what really didn't work for you?
Yeah, I mean, for right now, it's all TikTok. It's all short form video. Instagram has been great for the last 7 to 8, 9 years. And it's great. It was great for community. And it was all about photo and the beauty of photo and how much story a photo could tell. And then when Instagram stories got released years ago, and Snapchat and stuff, it's all about the video part of it. And now you just see the explosion of TikTok. And now Instagram has really uncandidly come out and said that the future of Instagram is in reels and in video and stuff. So, I mean, my focus now is just all on the videos, short form video. How do I take what would have been a picture of a backpack, and how do I turn that into now an engaging 5 to 7 second clip that could be turned into some sort of viral reel or something like that, reel or TikTok. It's free eyeballs right now. And never before have you just been able to post a TikTok or a video and it goes viral within minutes or seconds, and you get, so many people seeing you for the first time for free. That's kind of why people have gravitated away from Facebook, is now it's really just a pay to play. And unfortunately, that's kind of what Instagram will turn into. But there's people who are building the next millions of dollar brand, and they're starting on TikTok right now, and they don't even know it yet. Same way I started on Instagram years ago. That's all starting on TikTok right now. So, it is a little late. The early adopters were probably the last 5 years or so on TikTok, but it's still not too late to get on there. And that's just where I would be focusing. Everything is on short form video content right now.
And then how does email factor into your strategy?
Yeah, we've got an email list of 50,000 people that come from receipts or online orders and stuff. And, that's still a good revenue stream for us when we send out a weekly email with our new products or offerings. And we still definitely have an emphasis on growing that list. But you know how many emails you get a day, or spam emails. It's harder and harder to cut through on everything right now. And so they're all just parts of a larger effort in things. I don't put too many eggs into like one singular basket anymore.
And then what kind of investing do you do in paid advertising? And when and if you do invest, what platforms are you focusing on?
Yeah, very little. We've never really had to in the past. We're dabbling in it a little bit more now, but Facebook Ad Manager, but really just because that oversees Instagram. Meta owns Facebook and Instagram. So using the Facebook Ad Manager is to get ads and stuff seen on Instagram. And then there's paid stuff on TikTok. We also do paid on Google and Google Ad Search keywords and stuff. If someone types in Portland t-shirt, Portland hat, hats of Portland, like we want to come up high on the Google ranking for that stuff and SEO. But yeah, I would say the primary buckets we're putting money into would be Instagram ads, Google, and then probably TikTok.
So since 2014, you've grown from 2 designs to now more than 100. What steps do you go through to gauge demand for a new design before it goes into production?
Probably not enough. Intuition of me and the design team that have done it for a long time and studying previous trends or sales reports from last month or last year and just knowing what consumers buy. I mean, we're still luckily young enough that we're in the age demographic of our consumers. So we really design for what we want to wear. And so as trends change, so do our styles. And so we are constantly evolving. So, it's a mix of what we want to wear, what we feel our employees and young consumers and just kind of people in our atmosphere, especially on social. It's so easy now to post, hey, do you like this or this? Vote on Instagram stories or, trying to get some feel from that. But, also luckily for us, most of our stuff is printed locally. So, we could try a shirt and if it sells out quick, we print more of them and no one knows rather than ordering 1,000 of them to start and see if people like it and then being stuck with 900 of them. I can order 100. And if it pops off in the first week or two, then we double and order another 100 or something. And so that's kind of a competitive advantage that we as a brand have.
And then what's the process for deciding to retire a design that isn't selling well?
Yeah, I mean, if you're starting to see the trend data, or the sales data on it peel off, or if you look at it and it really looks different than all the new stuff we're creating, then maybe it's a style that's old. So we will just kind of let it sell through maybe. And, we get stuff wrong all the time. Maybe it's a wrong color garment, or we thought it would be a different color ink, or it's a design we thought would be sick, but it maybe didn't resonate with the market. And that happens sometimes. So, we either set it aside and we liquidate it at like big celebration sales that we try to do infrequently. Like we don't have a running sale section on our website or anything like that. We would rather turn those events into like bigger celebrations, a warehouse sale or a birthday sale or a Black Friday sale or something like that. And every day is trial and error for this stuff for sure.
What systems or tools are you using to track your inventory and all of your sales data? What are the back end systems that you might recommend?
Yeah, everything's in Shopify. We've been on Shopify since day one. Shopify and QuickBooks. That's pretty much where I and the brands live for any sort of financial data, numbers, reporting, forecasting, anything. It's in those two things right there.
And then can you talk us through the kind of step-by-step process of creating a new product from idea to it hits the store shelves?
Yeah. So we make apparel and soft goods and, we tell the story of Portland through our product. So for us, it starts with a collection theme or some event that's going to happen in Portland in the future that we want to be part of, or, there's a new sports team or there's the new sports season or something. So we kind of start with a theme, a collection. Then we go into like an inspiration board, trying to figure out what the color is going to look like. What are some other graphics out there that we'd like and try to replicate. Then it goes to design, where that's either me or Wookie or the design team is just kind of diddling an Illustrator and coming up with stuff, going back and forth. And then we kind of whittle it down to like what the final product is going to be. We then submit that product to one of our 3 screen printers or our hat supplier, in which they take anywhere from 3 weeks to 3 months. So we're always having to measure the time with these collections as well. Then the product comes into the warehouse. We do a big photo shoot for it and try to build some hype around it, maybe give it to some influencers or people and build some anticipation for it. And then, we launch it pretty much every Saturday. We have launches. So our collections launch on Saturday mornings. So Saturday morning at 10 a.m. on the portlandgear.com website or in our stores. And then people get the new stuff. And then we kind of rinse and repeat that process over and over and over again.
In the marketing portion of that storytelling, what are some of the key ingredients to make sure the authenticity of the brand comes through in the marketing materials?
Being authentic, starting everything with why, not necessarily telling them why, but like internally, like, why are we making this collection? Why is this story important? Like, why did we choose these colors? Why did we photograph it here? And then subtly implying that through all of the marketing. So if it's a collection, for example, there was a NASCAR event that came to Portland. We haven't had a NASCAR event in 20 years. What was this cool little NASCAR event? And we knew that was coming. We had it far ahead on the calendar. So we built this whole really cool NASCAR themed collection, but we put Portland instead of NASCAR. And we did this big rose racing jacket. So for our storytelling, first we told the story of NASCAR in Portland and why that was important and how we hadn't had an event in 20 years and how cool this is for the city. And then we drop our collection and like, hey, if you're going to go, here's what you should wear. And then it just resonates with people because it's of Portland and it's cool and it's unique and Portland Gear made it. And the way we tell the story is engaging and youthful. And so it's a mix of all those things, but it really just is the idea of the authenticity and the why behind it.
I love that. So this brings us to a portion of our show that we call our Fan Blitz questions. These questions come from our YouTube community channel. So again, go check out UpFlip on YouTube, join the community, and you can pose questions for future podcast guests. So for these quick hit 10-second answers, we've got about 6 or 7 of them. So here we go. R11RL, probably not their real name, is asking, how does a clothing startup compete with established brands on quality, considering vastly different budgets, supplier relationships, economies of scale, etc.?
Super hard, frankly. It's hard to make a jacket nicer than Columbia Sportswear. It's tough to make a pair of shoes nicer than a pair of Nikes. These companies have had decades and billions of dollars in sales that get them into factories, and the quantities they make are really high. And so that's a big part of it. There's a lot of, as an apparel brand, like there's a lot of companies that make really great blanks out there. So I would say just really spending the time to research blanks and where they come from, or trying to find something innovative. And then you're going to pay more for it. If you're going to have a premium shirt that's organic cotton, it's going to cost more than your cheap Gildan shirt that you could print on. And so you have to decide, is it worth more to print a higher quality item, and can I sell it for more? And the answer is probably yes. So it really takes time to find those blanks, to prove market, to prove that you have a concept, and again, in a lane, a river that people are already floating on. And then once your quantities get a little higher, then those conversations with factories get a little bit easier. But yeah, to start, it's just a ton of time researching where you can procure blanks from.
Can you talk through any steps you might take, be it copyright or whatever, to protect your designs?
Yeah, intellectual property, IP. I was just on a call with my attorney literally an hour before this, working through IP stuff and making sure you're registered in the right classes for different things and products and stuff. I think people jump the gun too fast and say that they need to trademark their name and logo before they've even sold anything. And truthfully, you don't need to, because maybe it's not going to work, and that would be a waste of $5,000. And if it does work, you're kind of backdated, somewhat protected, and when you started selling that stuff. So I would say come out with your brand, come out with the best name, best logo, start selling as much as you can. And then if it hits, go find a local attorney that's willing to work with you again for your budget or something, and then start to work on that intellectual portfolio of stuff. But you don't need to jump into it right off the bat, in my opinion.
What's the biggest purchase you've ever made, either for the business or personally?
Probably my family house, where my wife and I live, and where our daughter is, and kind of the importance of having a home to go to every day, and that's safe. And that's where, your most important assets in the world are your family members and your kids and your wife and stuff. So a place that we enjoy being and feel all the feelings of love and family and community and stuff. So my house is definitely my most prized and largest possession. Yeah.
At this stage of success, what advice would you give to your teenage self?
Yeah, keep going. Keep doing more of the shit that you love. I look back with zero regrets. So it's not something that I ever, I get asked this question often, as most people do. And I don't look back and ever say, oh, I wish I wouldn't have done this, or I should have done this. It's like, I consistently followed this voice. It was the things that I loved: clothes, shoes, sports, all that stuff. And so, going back to the 17-year-old me, I'd say, just keep going down that lane, keep following that voice. And everyone has that voice inside of them. They think successful people just deny it less frequent than unsuccessful people. And so if you want to be successful, like whatever it is in your head, that voice that keeps popping up for the things that you love, or those things that you feel passion behind, like you got to chase those things and do those things, because no one's going to do it for you. In the end, no one really cares about your success. They will champion you once you are successful, but people are really in it for themselves. And so you can't wait for someone else to want you to succeed, or you can't wait for someone else to give you some sort of idea or something, or to include you in their journey. Like, you got to go get it yourself. And so you got to listen to that voice inside, because ultimately it's you that's going to have to do the hard work. It's you that's going to get in the foxhole. It's you that's going to do this thing every day. And you got to know your love. You got to love doing it.
Who's the dream celebrity to get Portland gear items on?
I just love Michael Jordan the most out of anyone in the world, just as a 90s baby. So it'd be super cool to do a Nike Jumpman Portland gear shoe and have MJ wear it at some sort of event. Would be probably the most pinnacle of all pinnacles for me.
Well, all right. When that happens, we'll make sure to have you back so we can talk about how it feels. That is going to do it for our Fan Blitz questions. Again, those come from the YouTube community. Go find UpFlip on YouTube. Join the community. Post questions for future podcast guests. Marcus, a few more questions from me. What's been the biggest challenge over the past year in the business?
Kind of employee stuff is a big one right now. Hiring, retaining employees, people, and luckily we haven't had a huge problem with that, but I'd say that's probably the thing I'm spending my most time trying to hedge against, is just how to keep great employees, how to find new great employees, how to lay out better, expectations and paths for people so they know what they're doing, and not expect things of people, but help train and teach and educate and stuff. So for me, it's been more on the personal and the business development of myself side of, how do I grow as a leader? I've got 16, 17, 18 employees now during holiday 2025. And, that's something I could have never planned for, never thought of. And so that's my biggest thing of learning is, I feel like I know a lot about t-shirts and clothes and graphic design and Instagram and stuff, but my biggest space to learn is in the the personal side and management side of humans. And those are the most complex of all the things. T-shirts and screen printing are, black and white and you can kind of figure out, but humans, we're all interesting creatures. So you gotta manage and understand a lot of different people. And, that's a blessing most of the time. And so I'm not complaining at all.
What are you doing to try and build yourself in that way?
Yeah, a lot of work with mentors or reaching out to other people that have done this before, asking for feedback from my team or from others, overextending myself in good ways and, trying different things with people, trying to set different expectations, trying to intentionally spend an hour with each employee at least throughout the week so they can ask questions. Because, it's one thing to expect to say, hey, you guys can come to me if you have any questions. And then you realize that people don't come to you and you wonder like, well, I told them they can come to me, but it's, I've got to go meet them there. I've got to go to them and say, hey, what do you got for me this week? And then they'll probably unload questions for me. But, I have to intentionally create the space for them to feel comfortable with me. I can't just expect that by me saying it or by doing it that it makes them feel comfortable or something. So it's a lot. Yeah.
What tips or best practices do you have for attracting and hiring great employees?
We want people that already are somewhat familiar with the brand. And so we do that through through our Instagram. We try to hire as much through, people that already know us or through colleagues, bonuses for existing employees that know of someone that might work well at Portland Gear, because those are kind of the people that know the brand best already. So, if I've got a kid working at the retail store and we need another retail worker and I could say, hey, I'll give you $500 if you have a friend or something, like they're going to go find the person that they think will work good at Portland Gear because they already work there. So incentivizing existing employees to find people, posting about it through channels of people that already know you, that are already familiar with you, always be hiring, even if you don't have a spot open, just always have the door open and be willing to talk to any and everyone because you never know when you'll need someone.
And then what about hiring people into leadership roles, managers, et cetera? What do you look for in a candidate that tells you they'll be good at that?
Yeah, really, we only elevate people through coming up. We've never really had a key hire. I started to go down that road a few months ago. We're really looking for a person with a lot of experience. And, I've just learned that the people that know Portland Gear best and that, do it in our way are people that have come up through the retail store and then taken on a retail lead or a retail manager job. And then they come into the warehouse and start doing something. And then they end up in the office. And by the time that happens, they know everything about the business, our business. And I could bring in someone from a Nike or a big company. They just wouldn't understand us and our size and our scale and how small we are compared to where they were. And so for us, it's really about growing people internally into those positions and roles rather than going out and headhunting.
When did you hire your first employee for Portland Gear?
Yeah, it was when I opened the retail store. So that was when I realized, we were going to be open every day, 11 to 7. Couldn't do that myself. So that's when, Eli, who was one of my best college buddies, jumped over and started working the store with me. And then it was just him and I every day, 11 to 7. And then we realized we needed someone else because we needed an off day. And so then we added one person. We've only added people as we have gotten so overworked that we've needed to. I've never been like, let's go staff up and then see what happens. It's like we only staff up when the brand or the company really needs it. And I think that's been really important in our success as well.
One tricky thing for a lot of business owners is deciding what tasks to delegate, especially as they grow. So what advice do you have for delegating effectively?
Another thing that I'm working on, is like if you ask someone to do something, then you need to actually give them the space to do it. I think that's really important, is like, I can't expect someone and then I just jump in and do their job for them. So I think, again, it's laying out that expectation early and clearly, and then giving them the space and the authority to actually accomplish that. That's been a big learning thing for me, and I can continue to get better at stuff like that. So, it's offloading the things that I either know I can't do because someone's better at or I don't have the time for, and then letting people be successful or fail on their own and not having to feel responsible for every single thing.
You're clearly doing a lot of work right now to further develop as a leader, but how would you describe your current leadership style, and how does that play out in the day-to-day operation of the company?
Yeah, I'm definitely a servant leader. I like to show by example and be there. If work starts at 8:30, I'm always try to be the first one in. And that's been hard to balance with having a baby this last year. My daughter's almost 1. And so, trying to be that leader that's always on and always beats everyone in and last one out and stuff, but also trying to balance a growing family and a wife and a daughter and stuff has been hard. So for me, it's, I would never expect someone to do something that I haven't done. So pretty much every role at Portland Gear, I have at some point done. And it's showing up, being on time, being human, meeting people in their humanness when, they need a mental health day or when something's up with them, like we all go through shit. And so it's being together and understanding that. So I think I'm empathetic towards people as well and try to understand the human side of it as well. And, I would just want to be a boss that I would want to work for. I think that's kind of everything in business and entrepreneurship and life that I try to do is like, what's a brand that I would have liked to work at? What's a summer internship program that I would have liked to do? What's a t-shirt that I would like to wear? Like who's the type of boss that I'd want to work for? And I just try to create that. So I just try to manifest all that stuff in my life every day.
If someone came to you and was looking for some advice on getting started on a clothing line and asked, what's my minimum startup budget? What would you recommend be that minimum startup budget for a new clothing line?
I mean, that's really hard because, you can start with a mock-up of a shirt and go around and hustle your butt off and try to sell it and then go order the shirts after, and you really didn't have to put any money into it. Or you could spend $5,000 and buy a bunch of shirts and hats and then see if anyone wants them and go hustle to try to sell your inventory. I mean, there's lots of different ways to do it. So I would say whatever that dollar amount is that makes you feel uncomfortable, that you need to go work hard to get that money back. If it's like, I'm going to start this with $100 and if I lose it, whatever, can pretty much guarantee you'll lose it. But if you put something into it, or if that only thing that you have is all your time and you put time into it or money into it and you need to see that thing succeed, then you're going to work harder for it. So I would say just whatever that number is that makes you feel uncomfortable that you're going to have to go out and hustle for it is the number that I would tell you to put in.
Have you had to utilize any outside funding to grow the business?
Fortunately, we haven't. I've got lines of credits and credit cards and stuff that I can use if need be. But we've consistently tried to be cash flow positive and net profit every year, and that's allowed for some reinvestment into things by just kind of keeping the money in it and circulating around. And so I feel very fortunate in that regard.
How do you decide that balance of what what profits to use to pay yourself and what to use as a cash infusion into the business?
Yeah, I'm very in tune with our numbers and what we need and where we are. And so, I can see the seasonality of the brand and know going into holiday, like there'll have to be definitely much more, capital put in for holiday buys versus in January, February, March and stuff. And so, I'm very in tune with the numbers on the finance side. And so, it's a constant balance of pulling out. I don't pull out what I don't need necessarily. And the more money left into the business, the more it can make into the future. So it can ebb and flow. There might be a month or 6 months where, there is money left over and that's what I can pull off. Or there might be 6 months to a year where there's no money left over and I'm just reinvesting in inventory because that's what the business needs. So totally ebbs and flows.
Looking back over the last 8 years, was there ever a point where you just wanted to walk away?
No.
I love that. What was the lowest point?
To me, there's just never been an option to walk away or to end it. And that's not how I would operate or work. It's every day wake up and opportunistic. And what do I go chase? And what do I go do? I've had lows where I felt overworked or, anxiety has come on with trying to balance everything or the sudden growth or, drowning in inventory or stuff like that. But, all those lows to me are growth moments or when I understand myself better or the brand better. And so, I try to look at those things as positives, even when they are negative. So yeah, lows to me are par for the course. It's part of what we all have to go through.
Is that something that you think you've learned through this journey, or that there's just something in the way that you were wired at birth that kind of gave you that ability?
Yeah, I think both. I think I definitely have some sort of something in the blood that I don't quite know. I don't come from a business family. I started this thing from zero. My mom was an elementary school teacher. My dad was in insurance and banking and financial planning and stuff. And so I don't know. I think it's a mix of that. And then it's a mix of, being 8 years into this now and knowing what works and what doesn't and knowing that I'm going to have seasons and things that are harder than others. It's all part of it for me. And it all moves forward and it all moves in a direction that I love. And so I got to take, not every day can be a win. So it's all part of it.
Where do you see the clothing industry going over the next 5 to 10 years? Any changes or trends that someone starting a line now should be aware of?
Yeah, I actually really think right now people don't care about brands as much. I know that sounds cliche. On one hand, there's just two extremes. So right now, on one hand, it's like hyper about brand, designer brand or brand name or brand. And then on the far other end is like thrifted shirts and stuff that I don't even know what the shirt says. I don't even care. It just looks cool. Like I got it at a $5 bin or my friend gave it to me or it's my mom's shirt. And it's like, so there's like the far right is like, have to have the brand head to toe. That's my drip. That's what it looks like. And then one side of the other extreme is like, I don't care what I'm wearing at all. And like the style is to not know what you're wearing. And so there's two kind of extremes, which is kind of interesting right now. And so we try to play into both of that, where we have big graphic elements that have nothing to do with Portland that are just, cool, trendy shirts. And then we have stuff that's still very branded. And we notice that you put 30 high school or college kids into our store and they're all going to pick something different. And so we'd be disservicing if we weren't doing that. So there is kind of this range that brands have to have, but we're still staying true to the quality and the storytelling and stuff like that.
What's the next big goal for Portland Gear?
Yeah, working towards a store at our airport is big. We have a very popular and beautiful airport here in Portland, and it's getting redone, and it's going to be state of the art and probably one of the most just futuristic, beautiful airports in the whole country. And that's opening in a few years. So I think having a retail store at the airport for Portland Gear makes a ton of sense. It would be a big move for us as a brand. So that, and then maybe moving the retail store and just kind of continuing partnerships and stuff. So, I feel like I know where our next 2 to 3 years are going. And it's kind of just also the world's a little uncertain right now too. So I think just trying to stay in the middle for as long as we can. And then when we can get that opportunity for a couple more retail stores, I think that's kind of the next big step.
When you have those kind of, those visions for the next few years, what's your process for kind of deciding on what those should be and then tracking your progress to them?
Again, into a mix of intuition and experience and stuff. Like I just kind of know what goes into this now. I've been meeting with all the right people. I network enough to know where kind of what our next steps are and how to stay on with people. So, it's a mix of me putting some steps ahead of me and just kind of knowing some keystone dates that I need to be making sure I'm hitting with things. And then also just kind of intuition, feeling things out. And I think that's really important, where a year ago from now, I would have had totally different goals. And so they change sometimes. And I'm fine with that. I think that's fine for a brand to do that sometimes, as long as it feels authentic in the moment. And then I chase it until it doesn't. And if it continues to, then I chase it further. And if it starts to die out, then I go on to the next thing. And I think that's important too.
How important is having long-term vision to growing a business?
I don't think it's that important. I think people maybe get just think too much about the future that they don't even realize what they're in right now or how to get through the present. For me, and that's just my personal thing. Like I know a lot of brands that have the 10-year plan already and they're chasing that and power to them. But for me, in this kind of creative world and apparel, and things change so fast, and I just want to ebb and flow as the world ebbs and flows. And if I had too hard or rigid of goals in the past, or I'm still going towards them, I would have missed half the shit that I love doing right now. And so I like that we have this flexibility to kind of zig and zag and weave when we want to. And, that comes from owning 100% of the business and not having investors or partners and stuff, is that I have that kind of freedom and flexibility to do those things. That's the kind of business that I want to have.
Do you think that flexibility is your greatest strength?
Absolutely. I think it's the brand's greatest strength. I think it's mine. I think that's why I became an entrepreneur. That's why I got fired from that job, is someone tried to put me in a box, and that's not where I'm best served. And so, me having the freedom to do things all the time and just go where it feels right and do what I want to do, it's like, that's the greatest feeling in the world. That's why I'm an entrepreneur. That's why I want everyone to be entrepreneurs, is because it's just like, there's nothing better than having an idea, seeing it come to life, seeing other people enjoy it, seeing other people support you, wear it, experience in it, and knowing that just came from some idea in your head. Like everything you see, if you look around wherever you are, if you're sitting in your room right now or your car or you're on a run or wherever, it's like everything you see was created by someone. It was all dreamed or thought of or conceptualized by someone to fix some sort of problem. And you can do that too. Everything just starts with an idea and energy. And those two things together, amazing and magical stuff can happen.
What's the number one piece of advice you'd give to a clothing line owner who's struggling to attract customers and grow their sales?
Keep telling your story. Jump on TikTok, Instagram, Reels, be authentic, be the human behind the brand, give people a reason to support you, tell your story over and over again, do the pop-ups, make your designs better if people don't like them, get feedback from people. What do you like? What do you not like? What would you like to see? What would you not like to see? Take a risk. And if you do all those things over and over again, then chalk it up as a loss and go on to the next thing and take all that information that you just learned and do the next project better. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I think even though it's a loss, like you gained a ton of experience and knowledge from it, and then go make the next thing even better. Like Portland Gear was not my first t-shirt brand that I did, but I learned a hell of a lot in those first ones where it made this one successful. So sometimes things aren't meant to be, but they're just meant to be stepping stones.
Last question for me. What's your favorite business book and why?
Honestly, I've read too many of them they all blend in at some point. I feel like I read them so often that they all just kind of become about the same things. Start With Why by Simon is a really great one, just getting to that core of the things. One of my good friends here in Portland, Greg Bell, has a book called Water the Bamboo that I remember reading in 8 years ago that was really impactful about this idea of, you plant bamboo, basically grows underground for months, if not years, before it ever sprouts. And you have to water. Like, it's this idea that something's growing underground, but you can't see it. And it's getting bigger and it's getting bigger, but it's taking forever. But then once it finally sprouts, bamboo can grow 3 feet, 6 feet in days. But people oftentimes give up before it even sprouts. And so it's just this idea of, continue to water your bamboo before you even know what it's going to turn into. And most people give up. But if you continue to water that thing, that when that sprout does come, you're giving yourself the chance for it to take off. And so I think that's a pretty great book as well.
Marcus, before I let you go, where can our listeners find out more about you and about Portland Gear?
Yeah, come find us. PortlandGear.com is our website. Portland Gear on Instagram, Portland Gear on TikTok. All of it. Yeah, come see what we're all about. I think it'll make sense if you visit our website or download our app or see it. You'll kind of understand more about what I've been talking about and the product that we make and kind of how we tell the story of Portland and stuff. And then I'd like to think we're a good case study that if you're looking for social media help or ideas, just look at what we've done. Look at what we've done that's worked. Look at what we've done that hasn't worked and go apply it to your own business.
That is going to do it for this episode of the UpFlip podcast. Again, make sure you check out our YouTube channel where we've got several interviews on how to start a clothing line business and other types of businesses as well. Just great entrepreneurial advice on the UpFlip YouTube channel and also on the blog, upflip.com/blog, business tips and strategies there. All the links in the resources section on the website and in the show notes. Here, Marcus Harvey, Portland Gear, thanks for joining us.
Of course. Pleasure. Thank you.